Welcome, everybody. Thursday, March 21st. John Aravosis here at the Aravosis Report, coming to you live from Washington. I am getting my, as always, there it is. Always got to find the chat. There we go. Shut my curtains today, so the lighting might be a little more consistent. We shall see. But anyway, hello all. Adjusting the camera too, not as close. Anyway, there you all are. Hello all. How is everybody? How are we today? I'm going to get TikTok rolling too. Deep. 1 second here. All right. And hopefully everything's working. I'm still worried, like with all this tech, that I'm going to get something wrong. I'm using my iPhone to do the streaming now, which is really good, but it still worries me a little. Oh, nice. The British Embassy flew the Ukrainian flag beside the Union Jack. Actually, that's interesting. Here in D.C., I think they've even had... I'm trying to remember if the Churchill statue had it or something. Because I know at the French Embassy here in D.C., the French ambassador's residence, where they hold a lot of the events, they've got a small mock-up of the Statue of Liberty wrapped in the Ukrainian flag. It's really cool. It's very cool. Which, you know, the French made the Statue of Liberty and gave it as a gift to the Americans, by the way. Maybe not everybody knows that. I'm kind of debating on, I don't think I want the other light. Okay, I was debating on putting on my other light, but I think I'm good enough here. All right, real quick here. I'm getting the lives going on TikTok here. 1 sec. It takes me a second to set this up. Beep-a-deep-a-deep-a-deep-a-deep. Beep-a-deep-a-deep. I'll do that. All right. Okay, of course, my dog is outside eating sticks, which drives me insane. Okay, crazy. What do you... Get in here. Come here. Tasha. The dog is outside eating sticks. I knew it. I freaking knew it. I knew it. Get in here. You have to see this. She's, come here. Come here. Come here. She's sitting here walking around with huge, like, little bits of... Oh, Sasha, come here. It's still on your face. She's walking around with, like, stick. Come here. Come. Pieces of a bush hanging off her face because, of course, she's eating sticks. And when she eats sticks, she gets sick. I don't want my dog getting sick. All right, let me go live on TikTok. TikTok never gets to experience these beginning of the show weirdness that I do with you guys. All right. There we go. Oh, sorry, get my camera rotated on TikTok. There we go. All right. All right, welcome everybody. Woo. Hey, TikTokers. How we all doing today? Oh, boy. Hey, David. Nathan. Hey, TikTokers. We are rolling. Oh, boy. All right, dog. Relax. Oh, my God. My dog being evil. Evil little dog. Hey, Big Hawk. We're doing the Cherry Blossom Walk tomorrow. We were going to do it today. We got very close. Damien came over. But the cherry blossoms are sort of peaking in Washington, D.C. now, which is really a beautiful thing to walk around and see. But honestly, it was like 38 degrees and windy. And I was like, there's no way. The wind chill was 34, which basically puts you like, even if you're in Celsius, 34 is 1 degree above freezing. You know, hey, Jean-Marc. Thank you, by the way, for being a subscriber, Jean-Marc. So yeah, you know, it's just above freezing. And I went, you know what? I'm not walking around with freezing wind. So tomorrow we are doing the cherry blossoms tomorrow, and I will stream and show you all. Hey, Bryce. Thank you, guys. I see a lot of gifts coming in at TikTok. Thank you, Succeed, Elizabeth, Ava, our wonderful map maker. And let me get some of the hey, Martin. Some of the subscribers over on TikTok and YouTube I can thank as well. Thank you, Marie, for the gifts. We've got Marie today, Chris, Annie. I'm going to open this again. Drake, Sick, Flying Medic, James, Sally, Mad Mike, Bjorn, Susan, Ann, Savannah. Oh, my God, so many of you guys. Oh, thank you, Crazy American. Oh, and a wonderful little donation gift from Only a Paw. Thank you. Strange Brew. That's as far back as it lets me go. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. We've actually, this has been great. We are up to, I think, 82 subscribers on YouTube, which is amazing. TikTok, we're at around, I think, 186 maybe, which is also amazing. Thank you, Super Hornet. So thank you all very much. Anyway, it just helps so much. So thank you, guys. As you know, the troubles we've been having the last week. plus. So this has been very helpful. All right, guys, I am going to get rolling. So welcome. I am John Aravosis. This is my show I do every Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern Time, U.S., where we talk about the latest news from Ukraine. Let me just get rolling, okay? We'll start. Today is day 755 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation in Ukraine. Make sure you guys hit the like button. Comments help too, apparently. It's like all the weird little things you have to do to sort of tell TikTok and YouTube that you like the show, because then their computer says, oh, we should tell people about it. So hit that little screen on TikTok to do the likes at the top. It shows how many people liked it. YouTube, hit the like button or the arrow button. And of course, gifts are very much appreciated because your guys' gifts help pay for my bills. I do this full time. I've been doing it full time. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Pure Genius. Oh, Genius. Cute, like genius. I've been doing it full time since the war broke out, and you guys help me really keep doing this with your gifts. So thank you all. Thank you, Christine. All right, let's get rolling. So today is going to be a little bit of a creepy episode, I admit up front. Thank you, Anthony. Not so creepy that TikTok will ban me. Thank you, Marcy. But there's been, I'm going to give you a little background stuff first on where things stand, but there has definitely been some talk, increased talk about war, which is certainly concerning. And I mean war between Russia and NATO, which is concerning. And we're seeing more and more of European leaders and defense experts in Europe talk about it. So I'm going to talk about that a lot today. Again, scary stuff, but necessary. What do you do? And Anthony, thank you for joining as a Patriot launcher. I appreciate that on YouTube. Thank you. But let me get a little bit of background where we are right now first. Thank you, Blue Sky. So British Ministry of Defense today said that the frontline situation in areas like Donetsk in eastern Ukraine are unstable due to Ukrainian ammunition and personnel shortages. So Donetsk is a Ukrainian town right here, occupied by the Russians. The Ukrainians were actually I shouldn't. Oh my God, it's been a while, guys, that I've talked about Donetsk. I shouldn't say that. I'm actually forgetting. I'm having a little bit of a brain fart right now as to whether Donetsk has been taken by the Russians or not. I apologize, but I don't want to get it wrong. Avdiivka, the suburbs, northwest suburbs, the Russians just took the other day. I am pretty sure the Russians control Donetsk. God, I should know this. I do know this. I'm just having a little bit of a brain fart today. I'm sorry. Thank you, Wayne, by the way. The gifts on YouTube or on TikTok real quick. Oh, lots of them from Wayne. Thank you, Wayne. You're out of control. Nice. Thank you. And Ben, thank you for the membership. Oh, Ben's gifting memberships. Even nicer. Thank you, Ben, for doing that. Paul picked it up, I see. But what's going on is the British Ministry of Defense says that the frontline situation in areas around Donetsk are unstable because basically you've got the Ukrainians north and the Russians south and east, right? So this is all controlled by Russia. The line cuts through Donetsk. What they're saying is the situation is unstable because the Ukrainians don't have enough men, but they also don't have enough weapons, and they don't have enough ammunition. The lack of ammunition is our fault. Also Europe's fault. I would say both of ours. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Stephen. Hannah, lots of gifts on TikTok. Thank you, guys. Simon. But it's I say Europe because, look, all of us, if you really sort of step back, thank you, Stephen. If you step back, it's kind of scary to what degree, thank you incredibly, thank you, Bessic. Thank you, Lamb Chop. It's kind of scary that this war went on for 2 years and we reached the situation where not only Ukraine doesn't have enough ammunition, but we don't, right? We don't have the artillery shells to give Ukraine. That's kind of scary. That's a little scary, I just, it's surprising to me, although maybe not surprising. Thank you, Crystals. We were in the situation where after the Cold War ended, when the Soviet Union dissolved in 1991, NATO, U.S. included, we're hoping for a peace dividend. Yes, I am. I should have thought of it tonight. Sorry, guys. I'm wearing my lighter colored shirt. I could put my jacket on, but it might be a little warm. Let me try. I'm wearing my lighter colored shirt, which on TikTok can make the comments hard to read. These are the kind of crazy things you have to think about. I feel like Mr. Rogers putting on my sweater. These are the crazy things you have to think about when you do shows, is the texture of the color of my shirt can make the text harder to read on the screen. so that people actually have a harder time on TikTok seeing the comments. It's like crazy things like that you have to think about. And today I kind of knew that and I didn't do it. But in any case, all right, I've got my jacket on. Hopefully this will make it a little bit better for you guys. There we go. They're saying much better. Actually, the apartment isn't too warm today. Sometimes with the sun, my apartment gets too hot. So I try not to. Sasha, you got to wait. Just wait. The dog is begging for food now because that's her new thing she's doing. I don't know. She just ate dinner, doesn't care. She wants food. All right. We were talking about the ammunition. So what is kind of amazing to me is that, after the Cold War, the U.S. and Europe, we talked about a peace dividend. Thank you, Christine. We talked about a peace dividend, which was the idea that because, peace at last, finally, with the Soviets, the Soviet Union no longer existed. Russia was no longer a threat. Russia was going to join, the League of Peaceful Nations and become now part of the West or whatever. Thank you, Depress. There was even talk about, could Russia even join NATO, right? That we could cut back our militaries. And one thing that did happen in particular was cutting back weapons in Europe. I mean, U.S. did cut back on troops in Europe. The Germans, actually, one example, thank you, Pedro. One example, and I could probably say this was, in general, I'm not going to share sort of off-the-record conversations, but the man who is now the Polish foreign minister, Radek Sikorski, I'd met him once before the war in Ukraine, and he had said to me, he said, do you know how many tanks Germany has? And I forgot why I knew. I think I knew. Actually, now I'm kind of forgetting. Bottom line is Germany has 1/10 of the tanks today than they had during the Cold War. That it's that few, and it's because the peace dividend, right? The war ended, and the Germans figured, like all the rest of us, there wasn't the danger of Russia. Hey, let me show you this. During the Cold War, the big concern was, okay, you've got Russia here. You've got Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Ukraine, Belarus, all of this was part of the Soviet Union, right, with Russia. Then you had the Soviet bloc countries, the Warsaw Pact countries, which were dictatorships in Eastern Europe that the Russians imposed by military force. They imposed Stalinist, communist dictatorships, brutal dictatorships. In Eastern Europe, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, right? So all sort of through here. And then half of Germany, East Germany, which was here. They took Germany, cut it in half, third, basically, and took the eastern third of Germany, made it an independent country. One of the most brutal communist dictatorships was in Eastern Germany. I mean, horrific police state. And I was trying to think of how I was talking about Russia and Eastern Europe here. Oh here it goes. I was trying to find my little pointer that my mom had given me. The concern was that the Russians were going to basically come through Eastern Germany, and I believe come through Eastern Europe and come through Germany, right? That Germany was going to be the weak point, that the Russians would come through, the Soviets would come through to invade NATO, to invade Western Europe. So there had to be a huge number of troops and weapons and tanks and everything else in Germany. Well, once the Cold War ended in 1991 and the Soviet Union dissolved, we didn't need the tanks, right? There was no concern about the Russians invading Europe. I mean, it was over. Russia, again, in principle, was going to become a good guy, and there was no concern. Well, it also meant we didn't need the artillery necessarily, the artillery shells, because we weren't planning on a land war in Europe, right? We, to some degree, we were more worried about our Air Force, our Navy, right? So our ships, our subs, our Air Force abilities, less about the military, about the Army. In any case, that's become a problem now because obviously we don't have enough of weapons for Ukraine. In any case, to take back to the issue, let me just say a little bit more. So the British Ministry of Defense today said that the situation for Ukraine in the east is unstable, where the border between Russian troops and Ukraine, between the Russian occupation in Ukraine and then Ukrainian troops, is unstable because the Ukrainians don't have enough ammunition and because the Ukrainians don't have enough manpower. Now, manpower has been another issue that's been discussed a lot with the Ukrainians. And there's been criticism of the Ukrainians for this, saying that basically, Zelensky and the military both need to push more for conscription, for increased mobilization, calling up more Ukrainians. Thank you, Nicola. But some of the concern has been that you can't really just call up the men if you don't have the weapons, right? Ukraine doesn't have enough artillery shells. They don't have enough ammunition. They're running out of air defenses, the missiles, the rockets they shoot up in the sky to knock down the incoming Russian weapons. If you have more men, it doesn't really help you if the men don't have equipment, right? If the men don't have artillery shells to shoot at the Russians, how does having all more men is more men to get blown up, right? It doesn't help. So there's a catch-22 here. Thank you, Cheryl. And clearly, we play a role. Thank you, Depress. We play a role in Ukraine not having enough weapons, the West. And we've given them a lot, but as I always say, just because you give somebody a lot doesn't mean you give them enough. I mean, they need more than we've got given, and they need better weapons that we've been refusing to give until now. I mean, even the F-16s, we're still waiting, but it's taken forever, right? And forget the ATACMS missiles, still not getting. German Taurus cruise missiles, still not getting. American tanks, we gave them literally, what did we give them? 34 or something? We gave them just a handful of tanks. We gave them our lower quality tanks, not the first generation good ones. I mean, we're constantly playing. 31 is it? Big Daddy says 31. I remember it was low 30s. Yeah. In any case, Ukraine reportedly has a defensive fortification effort underway in the Kharkiv region. Now, let me show you on the map. Kharkiv region, I'm going to guess this is probably happening. Yeah, Kupiansk, it says. Around Kupiansk. So basically, we're talking more or less around here-ish. That's right, I should use the pointer. We'll use the pointer. Boop. Around here-ish on the map. Again, you're talking Russian occupation here, but Russians trying to move west, right? So they're trying to take Kupiansk and go west. The concern is that the, hang on here. Oh yeah, not the concern. In this case, the Ukrainians are building up more defenses around Kupiansk because they're worried about the Russians making a bigger push into the Kharkiv region, which is that whole area there. Thank you, Felicia. Thank you, Depress. And they're starting to build in more defenses to basically what the Russians have done in the territory the Russians are occupying as well. More trenches, things like that to stop the Russians from making a big push if the Ukrainians have to fall back. So anyway, I will make a quick pitch for subscriptions, and then let's talk about all the war talk, because as I said, that's kind of been the big news of today that I'm seeing is much more talk about war. So subscriptions. So one of the cool things you can do with TikTok and YouTube both is buy subscriptions, which are basically just a monthly gift. On TikTok, you can do it somewhere on my screen. I think it's a star sign, probably a little star at the top, probably for subscriptions. You click. The new rate is $6.99. I upped it a little bit on TikTok because TikTok takes 65% of the money. So unfortunately, they take a very, very, very large amount. Thank you, Addie. So I've had to up it by a little bit of $1 to make it equal in a way. It's not even equal, but to what I get on the other services. Thank you, Tarad. But what you get with that and what you get on YouTube as well, same thing with the memberships, YouTube memberships. You can click that $sign at the bottom of the screen that you guys should have, depending if you're on a laptop or a phone or an iPad. But the $sign at the bottom, you click. Same thing, membership, subscriptions, and it lets you do a monthly membership. What you get some cool emojis and stuff, which I know some people like. But I think the most important thing are two things. One, you support my work. I do this for free. I do it full time. You're helping me pay the bills and keep doing this. The second thing is you get to join our Saturday show. We do a show almost every Saturday morning, unless I'm traveling or something, but we do a show every Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, U.S. That's Washington, D.C. time. Vlad will often join us, my friend in Ukraine. He's traveling the next couple days in Kharkiv, so he may or may not join us on Saturday. If he's back, he will. Thank you, Kimmy. Kimmy Cakes, cute name for the gift. But we do a Saturday show that's a little more of a more casual hangout. It's just for the subscribers. So on TikTok, the paid subscribers join us on TikTok. On YouTube, you guys, I'm going to try to stream on YouTube this Saturday as a unique first try. But typically, I stream over on Discord, and your subscription will pass over to Discord if you go to Discord and set it up. So you pretty much have to join my Discord community. It's free. And then go to your settings, look for connections, and connect your YouTube account. It can be complicated, but it's not the worst thing ever. But otherwise, like I said, I will also try this weekend to actually go live on TikTok at the same time. On YouTube at the same time if I can. And if I'm able to, then you don't even need to worry about linking the two. Anyway, thank you, Norway Fox. The final thing I should say for gifts is you guys can do gifts or subscriptions on YouTube to give to other people, which Sally just did. You can buy us a 1-month subscription. So it's just 1 month. In Sally's case, depending what she bought, I think it's the $4.99 subscription. And YouTube will automatically give it to somebody. So you see, YouTube just gave it to Thorn, who will get it for the next month. And that way Thorben will be able to join us on the weekend. So thank you, Thorben, or welcome, I should say, Thorben, and thank you, Sally. Hey, Blue Sky. Hey, guys. I don't know. Is my mic working on TikTok, guys, or is it being goofy tonight? Cheryl says it's not. Cheryl's a regular, so I trust Cheryl. For everybody else, I mean, it doesn't sound like it sounds like it's my, hold on. Pull away my good mic, close my good mic, pull away my good mic. So for you guys on TikTok, it sounds like it's definitely coming through the mic. Okay, good. Cheryl, it's you. Sorry, Cheryl, it's you. It's not me, it's you. So sometimes I think leaving and coming back can help in that regard. So you may want to try coming out of the TikTok and then come back in, and maybe it'll correct it. Real quick here. Is that streaming on YouTube instead of Discord? If I do YouTube, it will be in addition to Discord, because I've got folks on Discord for all the different services: Ko-fi, Discord, YouTube, and Twitch. Yeah, are the 4 ways you can subscribe and get access on the Discord. TikTok, I would, but TikTok is still broken, the connection with Discord. Thank you, Adventures. So that's why on TikTok I also just, and it's fun on TikTok anyway. It's a different format. I hold it for the TikTokers at the same time, but in a separate room, so to speak. So, all right. All right, guys, let me keep going here. Well, you know what? I'm going to one more time push this together. James, too, complaining about the mic. Sorry about that. Yeah, leave and come back in. Hopefully that'll fix it for you guys. The best way to subscribe, honestly, mods, why don't you tell people in the comments probably the better place to subscribe? I'm trying to be careful here because I got banned for a week on TikTok and I don't want to get banned again. So I'm just going to let things go. But TikTok is very expensive. TikTok takes a lot of the money, which is unfortunate. Although it's easy on TikTok and we do have our own fun community. So there's that. But I would think the tube is probably a better place, to be honest. All right, let's get rolling, guys. So, Institute for the Study of War. Jake, you're crazy. Jake just gifted 5 memberships, and now YouTube is throwing them around to various people. Excellent. Only a Paw, Brent, Danny, CJ, and Nordic Warrior each got a gift membership from Jake. Thank you, Jake. So that'll give you guys access for 1 month. And after the month, then it's up to you if you want to renew or not. But you get the emojis, which is kind of fun. And as I said, the Saturday show, which I think is nice. The Saturday show is always a different crowd. On TikTok, we get more people. We probably get like a good 50 to 100 people on TikTok easy on the Saturday show. For YouTube, I did it once on YouTube, actually. It was smaller. Discord, we get probably 12 people, something like that. So it's not too bad. In any case, let me keep going here, guys. So Institute for the Study of War is a very good American defense think tank. And they... anyway, very well respected around the world. They're here in Washington, D.C. And this is the part we're going to talk about the threat of war with Russia. And again, please keep the gifts coming, guys. I appreciate it, TikTok and YouTube. The threat of war with Russia. One of their analysts today was interviewed and talking about it, but then ISW also put out a general sort of fact sheet about it as well. So it wasn't just this analyst kind of talking out of school. Thank you, Norway, and thank you, Simon, for the gifts on TikTok. So Carolina Hurd of ISW said that war is very much the war in Ukraine is very much in Russia's hand at the moment. Thank you, Adventures. The lines are slow and stable, and Ukraine does not have the Western resourcing it needs to pursue its own offensive operations. Thank you, Jeremy, and thank you, Adventures. I mean, we know that, right? Ukraine doesn't have the support it needs to go on the offensive to sort of push back up against the Russians. Then she said this. This is enough of a situation for Russia to be able to maintain the line as it is and prepare for war with NATO in 3 to 5 or potentially more years. Now, and Jake just did more gifts. Jake, you're an animal. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. And everybody thank Jake who just got the gifts. Oh, hey, Edsel, you're here. Good to see you. I always like when you're back, Edsel. I miss you. I like my defense experts. I mean, a lot of you are defense experts, but Edsel actually is a Marine. So I say former Marine, but you're not supposed to say former Marine because there are no former Marines is the way it goes. So anyway, good to see you, Edsel. Hey, Crystals. Thank you for that. A little bit more on this. What is interesting is, so Institute for Study of War is warning about a possible war with Russia in the next 3 to 5 years. What is interesting is that is a number that keeps coming up. It came up from the polls. The Polish president said possible war in 2026, 2027 as early. That's 3 to 4 years. Actually, that's 2 to 3 years from the polls. I believe it was the Danes estimated as well, possibly 3 to 5 years. There's a lot of concern about possible war with Russia. And the concern is, not that we're going to accidentally get into war with Russia. It's not that concern that I think some of the folks who did not want us to be supporting Ukraine, right? Thank you, Chris, for the gift membership, which went to Kirk. Excellent. On YouTube, excuse me. The concern isn't that we will accidentally get into a war with Russia and therefore, oh my God, we better stop funding Ukraine, right? You hear that from people like Elon Musk, who often talks about how, we shouldn't be supporting Ukraine because it's just continuing the war and it could get out of control. No, the concern from the defense experts in Europe is that losing the war in Ukraine will embolden Russia to then take the war further west. And it'll take them to attacking the Baltic countries, which are the former Soviet countries in the north. I'll show you on the map. And again, these countries were part of the Soviet Union, which is why Russia wants them back. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, now free countries, of course. They want Ukraine back. We already know that. Thank you, Crystal. We already know that. And that basically, if they take Ukraine, they're going to start going after these guys especially. They may go after part of Poland. They'll go after Moldova for sure. It's basically setting us up for a world war, which is the real concern. Thank you, Ben, for the 5 gifts, and those got distributed. Glad to see. You guys are being very generous with all the. And thank you for everyone. Sorry, the YouTubers really helped me the other day. Thank you, Roxy. When I was in TikTok, jail, sort of helping me sleuth how to make the gift subscriptions work over on YouTube, which I wasn't really sure. And you guys were right, as I told you. I had to set up a $4.99 or it wouldn't set it up, and that's what did it. So thank you for that. Any case, let me keep going here. So a little more on ISW. Several financial, economic, and military indicators suggest Russia is preparing for a large-scale conventional conflict with NATO. This is the more general assessment that ISW put out today. Such a conflict could occur in the short term, not imminently, but likely on a shorter timeline than what some Western analysts have initially posited. Again, the thought is 3 to 5 years is what everyone's saying. Now, French Army Chief today, Sasha, you can hang on a little bit longer. The dog is begging. Okay, I'm just going to give her water and make her go away. The dog is begging for water. And anybody that watches my show knows that I am my dog's B word. So when she whines, if I don't give her something like her water, I literally, you sometimes can hear it. I don't know if you could hear it right now, but I will have like the next 45 minutes of listening to my dog go, and it's like a mother hearing her baby scream or so. Well, maybe mothers get used to the baby screaming. After 14 years, I still haven't gotten used to my crazy dog screaming. I'm going to hydrate the dog. One moment. All right, dog, you get your water. You get your water. All right. All right. All right. See, I want to make sure that crazy TikTok thing doesn't pop up when they ask me, are you a real human? Pretend to cut her nails. Yeah, that'll make her go away. All right, so French Army Chief. I'm going to give you sort of more stories today on just my concerns about what's going on. Not my concerns, the European concerns about possible war with Russia. Russia should not expect the West to limit its support for Ukraine to arms supplies only, the Chief of Staff of France's Armed Forces, General Thierry Burkhardt, said today. So basically, he's saying Russia shouldn't think that the only aid the West is going to give is arms supplies, is weapons. And what he means is, and it's clear from his context, he means that Russia should be worried that the West could potentially bring troops to Ukraine to defend. And that, anyway, let me go on. Putin, quote, has built his operation on the idea that the West will never go into Ukraine, but will simply supply arms, Burkhardt said. We have to show him that he will not be able to use this logic to go all the way, because this idea is not right. By the way, when he says go all the way, what I interpret that as being is, this is the French army chief, so the head of the French military, or the top general. He's saying that Putin thinks he can just keep going. He thinks he can go and take Odessa in the south. Even worse, and Odessa would be very serious. Even worse, he can take Kyiv, the capital, right? That he can keep moving west because NATO is only going to give weapons, and even now we're seeing the weapons are drying up. The U.S., certainly the weapons have dried up. We're not sending weapons. And what he's saying is we need to make Putin aware that there are other things we can and will do if he keeps moving west, if he keeps on his sort of determination to take Odessa, to take Kyiv, and that would be NATO moving troops in, or at least NATO countries like France moving troops in to defend Ukraine, which would be a big deal because that potentially could lead to war with Russia. Read this here. The war in Ukraine concerns us because we are involved in its consequences, said the French military chief. Europeans must therefore be capable of taking risks to ensure the security of Europe in the decade to come. Sweden's top general said in January that Swedes have to mentally prepare for war, you might recall. Just yesterday, British Defense Minister or Secretary Ben Wallace said that British troops in Ukraine could not be ruled out. Estonian Prime Minister Kaja Kallas said today that if Russia were to lose this war, then we don't have to worry about the Third World War. Basically, she today said there is a risk of a Third World War if Russia wins in Ukraine. Again, that same language, right? She said if Ukraine falls, war is going to be all over Europe. And then President Duda of Poland said yesterday that Russia was switching to become a war economy with the intention of being able to attack NATO as early as 2026 or 2027. Let me just look here really quick. The Danish defense minister, I'm giving you sort of the hodgepodge of what all the various Europeans have said. Danish defense minister on February 9th said that new intelligence indicates that Russia may attempt to attack a NATO country within 3 to 5 years. Now, why do I talk about all of this? As I said, what has been interesting to me is I really did sort of worry that, my big worry was that if Ukraine were to start losing the war, and by losing the war, I mean, we're talking about Ukraine losing Ukraine, right? Losing their country. That if Ukraine was starting to lose the war, they would become desperate and they would start doing things that we might not like. There are things that I definitely can't talk about on TikTok, and I probably can't talk about on YouTube. But let's call it irregular warfare, okay? Kind of things you do when you're a small, scrappy people fighting a big enemy and you have no choice left. Wolverine, the kind of things the Wolverines would do, all right? For any of the Americans out there know what I'm talking about. I was not thinking, so that's what I was thinking, by cutting off aid to Ukraine, the U.S. was forcing Ukraine to do things that were going to be some pretty bad, pretty violent things, right? I was not thinking of this sort of flip side, which was by cutting off aid to Ukraine, by cutting off American aid, we are risking making war with Russia more likely. And this is sort of the irony here, is people like Elon Musk, as I was saying earlier, would talk about war with NATO and Russia, and talk about how giving aid to Ukraine made war more possible, more likely, because we're involved in a conflict. Who knows what could happen? What mistake, escalation, Russia gets mad, right? This kind of stuff. But no one sort of talked us through enough what happens if Russia wins. And what we're now seeing is that Ukraine at risk of losing. And I will say Ukraine will lose. I mean, at the current pace we're going, Ukraine will lose at the current pace. It may take several years from now, but the Russians will run them over if we don't figure out a way to help them. What that is leading to is not necessarily a scenario, and a scenario of Ukraine doing a lot of irregular Wolverine type things to go after the Ukraine, the Russians, but it also is putting Europe in a position where Europe is now preparing for war with Russia. Ironically, cutting off Ukraine has potentially quickened the pace and likelihood of a third world war, right? And it's because of what it is doing to embolden Russia. If you listen to the Estonian prime minister, if you listen to the Polish president, if you listen to the French president, if you listen to the French top general, if you listen to the Swedish top general, the former British defense secretary, thank you, Tom, all of them say that this has emboldened Russia to become now a war economy and a more militaristic country and government, that they will go to war, that basically they will want to go to war against us, that a war won't be any kind of a defensive war against NATO. Well, they might see it as defensive, saying the war is inevitable, let's just attack NATO anyway. So, I mean, I'm sorry, I may not be saying this very well, but the roundabout way of what I'm getting at is that by cutting off aid to Ukraine, we've made war more likely between the West and Russia. Thank you, Diego. And that is what a lot of the top officials in Europe are now telling us. Very scary stuff. A little bit more here. Do keep the gifts coming, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you, Diego, for the crown. And you can do super chats on TikTok and YouTube, as well. The way I do the super chats, thank you, Strongman, is you can throw a question up that you pay for, and I always promise as a thank you, I will always answer the questions that are super chat questions. I try to get to questions at the end we do questions anyway. Thank you, Irene. We do questions anyway, but when I'm doing this part of the show, there's so much stuff on the screen that I really can't read most of it. But the super chat questions comes up with a bold color, so it'll catch my eye, and I will always answer that as the next thing I talk about. So as a thank you for supporting my work. So thank you, guys. So the Russian Defense Minister Shoigu said during a meeting yesterday with defense chiefs that the Russian armed forces will create 2 new combined arms armies, 14 divisions, 16 brigades by the end of the year. This was, I think, via Sky News. Several observers pointed out that Moscow is likely to ramp up its mobilization efforts after the presidential election. By the end of the year, we plan to form 2 combined arms armies and 30 formations, including 14 divisions and 16 brigades, Shoigu said. And what people said that all means is that basically the Russians are building a bigger army, guys. They're building a bigger military because this is the whole point. This is the whole point of what they're doing. It's very scary. Ukraine. So the militias held a press conference today. These are the Russian militias that are operating out of Ukraine, going into Russia. Basically, Russians that are fighting against the Russians. And there's at least 3 different groups: the Russian Legion, the Siberian something or other, and a third one I can't remember the name of. But they have been fighting across the border in the last week or so, really. They've been going up here here's Kharkiv, Ukraine, right across the border, the province of Belgorod in Russia. There's also the province, I think it's Kursk, which is right here. And they've crossed both areas and have been really causing a lot of mayhem. These Russian troops that are basically anti-Putin Russian troops that the Ukrainians are clearly helping with. They held a press conference today in Kyiv, talking about how they're doing, saying that they are still fighting inside Russia at the moment in those areas, and that they're going to keep fighting. Let me see here. I don't have a ton more here. Actually, I will mention one point. It's kind of interesting, actually. I'm kind of not divided on it, but it's interesting. Is that one of the leaders of these Russian volunteer groups is a very right-wing nationalist Russian. He's banned by many countries in the European Union, ban him. He's a far-right, authoritarian bad guy. What is ironic about it, I guess there's 2 things here. One, my enemy's enemy is my friend. If you're Ukraine and you believe, as all the experts do, the independent experts, that Russia wants to wipe Ukraine off the map. Russia wants to incorporate Ukraine as part of Russia, that they don't think Ukraine even exists. They don't think Ukrainians even exist. So they're literally going to take Ukraine. Thank you, love my. They're literally going to take Ukraine and make it Russia, okay? If you're Ukraine and you believe that, there are very few things that you would not be willing to do to stop it, because literally the survival of your country would be at risk. Let me put it this way. Thank you, Larissa. Russia has nuclear weapons. Russia has said, and I would say quite reasonably, really, Russia has said thank you, Crystals, one of the thresholds, red lines for Russia using its nuclear weapons would be if any country were to put Russia's sort of existential at existential risk, meaning their existence at risk, right? That we attack Russia and we're literally U.S. troops are moving on taking Moscow, right? That literally the country's at risk. That Russia would use their nukes. That is, I would argue, reasonable. It's exact same logic we would use, or the French use, or the Brits would use. And in our case, we would say we're only going to use our nukes unless you attack first, or you literally threaten the existence of our country, right? If Ukraine's existence is threatened, therefore, they do not have nukes to use. What they do have is some of these far-right Russian extremists, and they're very far-right. Some of them might even be neo-Ns, if you know what I mean, the word I'm not allowed to say on TikTok. But I could see some people saying, "Oh, that's terrible. You should never work with people like that." Right? They're far-right extremists. They're neo-Ns, right? They're far-right extremists. The only thing is, we've already agreed that if someone's trying to wipe out your country and there's a real risk of them doing so, that using nukes would be okay, right? That is the Russian philosophy. It's the American philosophy, right? So using nuclear weapons would be okay, and the ensuing horrific, right, result of what that would be. But you can't work, but to do a lesser move, which is to work with really bad people to attack the Russians, that would be crossing a line. Think about it, though. It's kind of interesting, right? It would cross a line to work with far-right, very bad people to stop the Russians, but it wouldn't cross the line to use nuclear weapons, right? I mean, that's crazy, right? I mean, obviously, nuclear weapons much worse as far as what the damage is going to be, an impact, right? That's a bad thing. So anyway, I just think it's interesting. It's interesting. Now, the other thing is the Russians have wrongly accused the Ukrainians of being the NZ word, right? And they do this all. And by the way, Putin's worked with a lot of these guys. The number 2 guy in the Wagner group had lots of, German World War II tattoos on his back and things. He was one of those fans of the German leadership in World War II. You know who I mean, right? So the Russians have worked with these guys before. They still do work with them, but they like to attack Ukraine and blame Ukraine for being these people. And to some degree, if I were Ukraine, there's a certain poetic justice in saying, well, you know what? If you're going to every day falsely accuse me of being those people, I'm just going to take some of those people who are your own. Mind you, they're Russians. They're your own people. Maybe we're just going to have them go after you instead because you're blaming me anyway. I think it's interesting. A little bit more here. Thank you, Anna. Final point here was why Belgorod is getting targeted. So this I thought was interesting. So Belgorod, we were just talking about this, how the Russian Legion, these Russian troops who are fighting against Putin, up here outside Kharkiv, the Russian region of Belgorod, and why they keep attacking there. And it was very interesting, I read today. The first is, and this is obvious, thank you, Kevin, is they're right across the border, which makes it easy, right? Here's Kharkiv, this is free Ukraine, and it's literally the region right here. I mean, it's 15, 20 miles from Kharkiv, right? 30 kilometers. I mean, it's very close. So you attack the region because it's right there. I mean, it's an easy reason to attack a region. The other thing, which I thought this was interesting, the region holds about 40% of Russia's iron ore and other minerals. 40%. And is home to several major industrial companies and farms. So it actually poses an actual risk to Russia losing it, which was interesting. So there's actually a strategic reason. And by the way, whether or not Ukraine is able to actually take Belgorod, it means Putin is going to be extra freaked out about any chance of losing it. So he will double down any efforts of fighting back against these, thank you, Sergey, of fighting against these Russian legions, because not only can Putin, I'm going to adjust my lighting here a little bit, not only can Putin not afford to lose this region anyway, because it would look terrible, right? He can't lose part of Russia, but he really can't afford to lose it because of the iron ore. So, all right, guys, that is it for, thank you, Janice. That is it for the news. Is there oil too? Okay. Oh, Kanepi, she's saying there's oil deposits too. Very interesting. I did not know that. That's interesting. Okay, then that would be another very good reason. Hold on, I'm gonna adjust this. There we go. There we go. Just a little bit. I wanted it to be a little taller. All right. So they've got oil factories. Okay, so yeah, oil factories. Very interesting. I did not know that. Oil is important, guys. Thank you, Matteo. Very important. Oops, hang on. Oops. The dog is doing her typical in and out thing. What else we got here? Oh yeah, so the auctions, just remember, we've got really cool auctions going on over at our Discord community. We do auctions every week, almost or so, of cool Ukrainian stuff that, I've got this week, I've got pieces of a Russian fighter jet shot down over Ukraine that we're auctioning off. I've got, come on, Sash, the dog doing her typical in and out. We've got, I'm actually trying to remember what some of them are. Actually, we've got, I think the bag is cool. It's a what do you call it? Like a gift bag, paper or cardboard from Ukraine, from the post office. Thank you. Who was that? Jetta. Thank you, Jetta. A really cool Ukrainian refrigerator magnet, but it's the Russian warship Go F Yourself design, which comes from a Ukrainian stamp. It's really cool. See, and now that I got my camera, you guys actually can see it. And actually, what I like about these stamps, I will show you this really quick, is the stamp, the matches. The matchbook inside has a Ukrainian Cossack on it. I think it's the cutest thing. Vlad saw it and goes, oh yeah, I have those stamps. But isn't it cute? It's like a little Ukrainian Cossack, and I believe it's the initials of the, it's not adjusting the focus. There we go. Now you can see it there at least. But it's very cute. So that's one of the other things. There's a number of different things being auctioned off, but basically what we do is, it's over at Discord. You can find the link to the Discord in my profile on TikTok. Thank you, Warren. Just go to my profile, look for the link there, all the little red arrows pointing at it. Click the link, and you'll find my Discord listed in there. Thank you, Christopher. And for you guys, you can go to aravosis.com, the link right there, and you will find my Discord as well. Half the auctions are for everybody. Half the auctions are VIP, which are the subscribers everywhere else but TikTok, because the TikTok link is broken. For some reason, TikTok's connection with Discord is broken, and unfortunately, we're not able to, it's broken. And TikTok has never been able to fix it, so I apologize, guys. But you're able to access at least the general auction. All right, let's get going. Question and answer. Vlad also did send me a little care package from Ukraine today. Maybe later I'll show you guys. It's a lot of fun stuff. A lot of really cool fun stuff, actually, for the auctions, which I'm very excited about. So anyway, all right, let's do Q&A and everything else. So what do we got here? I already threw out yesterday's news, Joe. That was a good idea, Joseph. But yesterday's news has been thrown out. It's in the garbage. I'll never find it. Martinelli is asking, I don't know, says, did Lithuania really provide Ukraine $35 million maybe worth of shells? Maybe. I don't know. Also depends what shells. They may not be artillery shells. They may be other ammunition. Also, it's possible Lithuania promised to give money to the Czech initiative to provide artillery shells to Ukraine. I don't know about it, but I'm saying there's a number of possibilities of what it could be, right? But it's possible. But $35 million, or euros, which is similar, it's very possible. Yep. Anyway, what else we got, guys? Thank you. Was it Darian? Darian for the hat and mustache. So what else we got going on, guys? Brian says, so are countries sending troops to be stationed non-combative, but just to have nearby? Currently, there are no troops being sent. No one has decided. There has been a clear, concerted campaign to talk about sending troops from NATO countries. The French, the Poles, and the Czech Republic are clearly on board to promote this idea of sending troops. Absolutely, positively. It is a coordinated effort, absolutely, positively. Okay? So that we know that for sure. What they would do if they finally go, what we're hearing from the French, to me, sounds like they would serve as a tripwire. Now, they would do trainings and everything else, but when France is talking about Basically, Putin needs to know he just can't move in and take everything, that we're going to be there. They're saying they're going to stop him from taking Kyiv and they're going to stop him from taking Odessa. Let's see. I mean, I think they're a tripwire for starters, meaning if you've got French troops in Odessa and French troops in Kyiv, and you're trying to take out Kyiv and Odessa, you're going to take out French troops, right? If French troops are on Ukrainian military bases, for example, or wherever, then you're going to kill French troops. And as soon as you kill French troops, France goes to war. And then you've got to deal with the French military might, which is not small, right? Their Air Force, their Navy. And if you attack France, then you attack NATO. And now the Brits are involved. So in other words, you're going to run the risk honestly, what these countries are saying, they're threatening Russia and saying NATO's going to war with you. Even if NATO doesn't go to war, we individually are going to go to war with you, is what these countries are saying. So, but I don't know whether they're talking. I think they would probably go and actively help the Ukrainian troops. My guess is they're not going to go and fight, at least initially. They're not going to, man the guns. They're not going to fly the planes initially, but they're going to help the Ukrainians more, and they're going to serve as a tripwire to basically of a larger war. I mean, again, that's the implicit threat, is a larger war. I'm not sure what you mean by prodigal. If Europe surrenders Ukraine, what else will Russia force to surrender? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that's exactly what we're talking about. Now, what else will Russia force to surrender if they get Ukraine? They'll go after parts of Poland. They'll definitely go after the Baltic countries, right? Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. We know they want them back. They'll definitely go after Moldova next. They'll take Moldova. Probably take all of Moldova, right? So, Junkmaster says Biden has been weak in Ukraine. I think he has, in a way. As I've said, look, Biden in Ukraine is very nuanced, meaning the analysis of how Biden is done. You've got to recognize that Trump said it was okay for Putin to invade Ukraine in 2014. He literally said this. I saw the interview with Trump. He was talking to CNN. It was either Jake Tapper or Wolf Blitzer. I saw the interview. And Trump said either right when he was running for president or right after he became president. And Trump said, Crimea, Ukraine's territory in the south that Russia invaded in 2014 and took, Crimea belongs to Russia. They speak Russian. They all want to be Russian. I don't have any problem with Putin taking it, okay? Trump has said today he thinks U.S. should cut off Ukraine entirely. So Trump potentially would have been a disaster. Now, Trump, you never know, because Trump surprises you, though. Trump ended up, in some ways, Trump obviously was very friendly to Russia in a scary way. Like his relationship with Putin was very scary. But in some ways, Trump did stand up, for example, when the murders were taking place, the assassinations that Putin did of defectors who went to the UK. And the Europeans put a lot of sanctions on the Russians, basically kicked out a lot of Russian diplomats. The U.S. joined in and kicked out, I think, 200 Russian diplomats as well. Now, I will say, the story goes that Trump got pissed afterwards because Trump didn't mean to approve 200 Russian diplomats being kicked out of the U.S. That Trump supposedly thought his briefers told him 200 diplomats were being kicked out total. Can we join in? And he said, sure. He claims after the fact that he didn't know we were kicking out 200 Russians ourselves. But nonetheless, that was significant, which is good. Trump did give weapons to Ukraine. Trump famously, however, threatened to cut off weapons to Ukraine. He made them contingent on Ukraine giving dirt to Trump about Joe Biden, basically making up dirt, which we now know the story is fake. The top witness of this whole Biden conspiracy with Ukraine is under indictment by the FBI for lying about making up the entire thing. So, Trump, who the hell knows? Who the hell knows? I don't think Trump would be as... And by the way, what Trump really couldn't do is unify Europe. Biden did what George Bush, the first George Bush, did before him. in the first Gulf War, which was the good Gulf War, right? George Bush got 91 or 93 countries from around the world together to help liberate Kuwait when Saddam Hussein took Kuwait. And he did it. And it was a great and just war and very effective. Biden did the same thing. Biden helped pull together the European countries, I think, who, other than the Brits, well, I mean, in terms of the large countries, the French and the Germans, helped pull a lot of people together who might not have been as interested in being as forthright in defending Ukraine, and pull that international coalition together. I don't think Trump could have done it. He couldn't have done it. Europeans don't like Trump. Trump didn't like them, right? I mean, Trump famously had bad relationships with the Europeans. He didn't like them. He liked Putin. He liked Kim of North Korea. He likes the Chinese. He does like Erdogan, and he likes Orban. He likes the authoritarians. He doesn't like the free democracies. He said this. So I don't think Trump would have been able to pull them together. And I don't think he would have wanted to, because I just can't see Trump pulling together a coalition to fight Putin. Biden did, which was a big deal and very significant. But as I've said repeatedly, so I won't kind of waste your time now, Biden never wanted Ukraine to win. Biden was afraid. Thank you, Ulina, or Ulina maybe. Biden never wanted Ukraine to win. Biden wanted a tie. He wanted to stop Russia from taking over all of Ukraine, and he wanted to help Ukraine get back some of its land, but not Crimea. Not Crimea. And that's why we're in the situation we're in. And by the way, the French and the Germans, same thing. Same thing. This is why at the beginning, we said no tanks, no planes, no missiles, nothing. And we dragged out the war. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Martin. We refused to give Ukraine what it needed at the beginning of the war. They could have won the war had we given them what they needed. Some of the stuff we decided to give them, we waited. We waited 1.5 years to give them tanks. We waited 2.5 years to give them fighter jets. They still don't have them. They may get them this summer. 2.5 years. We waited for these ATACMS missiles the Ukrainians are waiting for. They're still waiting. We haven't given them the long-range ones they need. I mean, every step of the way, we waited. And what did the Russians do? They dug in. That is one of the big reasons the counteroffensive failed this last summer, because the Russians were able to dig in, because we delayed in helping Ukraine, and we gave the Russians time to just go crazy, to dig trenches, to put in landmines, and stop the Ukrainians. The other reason the Ukrainians lost the counteroffensive, the military experts will tell you, is because they didn't have the air power they needed, the airplanes they needed. Why didn't they have the airplanes they needed? We refused to give it to them, and that's us, the Germans, the French, and everybody else. We all refused. Maybe the Brits were on board and the Americans got them to say no, but we refused to give them the air power they needed to make the counteroffensive work, and that's where the counteroffensive failed. But that was a very long-winded way of saying that this is my criticism of Biden. Biden doesn't want Ukraine to win. He wants Ukraine to tie. He's afraid of Vladimir Putin. He's afraid of what Vladimir Putin will do. If Putin loses, he'll go nuclear, whatever. But the problem is, guess who's even worse than Biden on this? Donald Trump, probably. Because Trump has made clear he sides with Putin. He doesn't side with Ukraine. He can't stand Ukraine. And he's always sided with Putin. So that is so in other words, I'm happy to criticize Biden. But anybody who's going to take it and say, yeah, Biden sucks, support Trump, support the Republicans, it's the Republicans who are now giving no aid to Ukraine, right? Biden gave aid and not enough. The Republicans don't want to give any. And when I say the Republicans, guys, a lot of you might be Republicans. You want to give aid. You don't count because you don't have an election certificate. The Republicans in Congress who run the show have zeroed out aid to Ukraine. No money's going, and no money's been going for 5 months. So, you got to balance the two. But I'm not going to say that makes it okay because Biden's better than the MAGA Republicans at funding Ukraine. Well, so what? You've got to do what, if you're doing good but not great, then I'm still going to criticize you because this is the survival of the country's at risk. You don't get graded on a curve. Well, he did pretty well considering. Well, no. We're talking about Ukraine's survival. So, any case. So that was probably longer than we needed to. I just told you why to blame Biden. Ukraine's about to lose the country. We could have won this war in 2 years if Biden had given Ukraine the weapons they wanted. And again, the French and the Germans are to blame as well, because Biden, I think, when Biden himself was afraid of giving Ukraine too many weapons and too good of weapons, but the Germans and the French were afraid too. Ukraine could have gotten back most of its territory except Crimea at this point, and they probably would have if we gave them the weapons they needed, and we refused. The war has been dragged out until now because Biden screwed up. Russia has dug in, and we will not. I don't think the Ukrainians have a chance in hell of digging Russia now out of the occupied territories because Biden, the French, and the Germans screwed up. So that's why I blame Biden. You know, the Republicans might have cut off aid to Ukraine now, but by now, Ukraine would have had everything back, maybe even Crimea, when the Republicans cut off aid. And that would have been a hell of a different position than where we are right now, where the Russians control a big 17% of Ukraine. So absolutely, I blame Biden. Yes. Again, in American terms, he gets a B. Actually, I'm lowering my grade now. Biden gets a B now. He no longer gets a B+. He gets a B, which is good, but we're talking about the survival of a country. I'm not willing to say a B is sufficient. Well, the country's not going to survive in the long term, but you tried really hard, but not hard enough. Well, C-. Yeah, well, I may get there, Deb. We'll see. Thank you, Crystals, for the gift there. Oh, man. Well, exactly. Well, no, and Dutch Cossack says many more Ukrainian lives lost, and that's an excellent point, too. Thank you, Vicky. Right? Ukrainians are dying. I mean, every day the war goes on, they're dying. Soldiers are dying, men and women, both, because Ukrainians also, like 20% of their military is women. Men and women are dying, and civilians are dying every day because we let the war drag out. No, it's not good. It's not good. So anyway. Oh, God. Very scary stuff. What else we got? What else we got, guys? So, yes, more... Beep, 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 beep. I'm adjusting my light. Now that the sun is... Although it's not... The lighting's pretty good. I'm adjusting my lighting as we go down. Yeah, the lighting's... I think I shut my curtains today, and I think it helped the lighting, if I'm not wrong, for being less, like, all over the place. You know what I mean? So it made it a little better. My poor little mood lighting. I know it turns into, as the evening goes on, it turns into mood lighting, Maddie. Correct. Oh, man. No, it's very scary. But as I said at the top of the show, it's very scary because there really is a lot of concern about this turning into a world war. That the Russians, a lot of concern by the Europeans, by the Estonian president, Kaja Kallas, by the Poles, by the French, the Danes, the Brits, that this could turn into a world war because the Russians are going to come after NATO next. Very scary. My view on the fighting in Russia, I think it's great, because at the very least, I always say the eye of Sauron, right? When Frodo is trying to go to the mountain, you want to be doing something to keep Sauron looking elsewhere. Anybody who doesn't know Lord of the Rings, I apologize. But you want to keep you want the bad guy not looking at you. So in this case, Putin is trying to fight in all of these different regions. And now, whoop, he's got to worry about his own country. He's got to worry about Russian troops invading Russia and fighting Russia, like Russians' own troops fighting each other like a civil war. That makes it harder for Putin to fight elsewhere. He's got to move men. He's got to move equipment to that civil war area. So it's great. It's great. It just keeps the eye of Sauron. Yes, not Soren. Sauron. Soren would be one of our wonderful. I don't know. Is Soren here today? One of our. I always forget if Soren might be Danish. I forget. Danish or Norwegian, I think. But yeah, Soren's one of our regulars here. Yes, when the sun hits the blinds like a big pizza pie. Exactly. Russia doesn't have the equipment anymore. The problem is Russia's still building more equipment. I mean, they're getting equipment, obviously, from the Chinese, especially from North Korea, from Iran, and they're replacing their tanks. I mean, from what I was reading, at least right now, they're having to go after their old tanks too. But they're building up a war economy, and they're rebuilding. Russia is not running out of weapons, really. I mean, they're running a little bit low, but Russia still has now, 10-1? Some people are saying, artillery shells versus the Ukrainians. They're building up their economy so that that's what I'm saying. In 3 to 5 years, they'll have built up their war machine to the point where maybe they can go on the attack. So Russia's certainly not in as bad a situation as Ukraine right now. Not at all. NATO has jets, but they only matter if right? If NATO sits on the side, Soren is here today. You're Danish. I knew it. I remembered DKK being Danish. Soren is with us today. That's funny. And thank you, Soren, by the way. But NATO has jets, but are we going to use them? Right? We give them to the Ukrainians? I mean, I'm still wondering how many jets are we even giving the Ukrainians? When are they really coming? Right? And, thank you, Charles. It's very scary. Oh, and now I'm getting hungry. I ate, but I had sushi for lunch, and I had a little bit of it before the show started. Thank you, cool. But, sushi holds you over about as long as nothing. I'm starving right now. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to grab a piece of chocolate. One moment. At least that'll hold me over. And I will do a free pitch for these guys. I should get paid for this. These things are amazing. They're the peanut butter cups from Trader Joe's that my nephew turned me on to. Oh my God. They're delicious. The thing is, I was telling you, they're super rich so that you don't really want more than one or two because they're so rich, which is actually good, but that will at least hold me over a little. All right. Now I feel better. All right. Chocolate is life, exactly. Much better. There we go. Old Stooge says, the numbers and therefore the odds are not in Ukraine's favor, and the longer we wait to get them aid, the worse their odds become. Every day we delay costs hundreds of Ukrainian lives. That's true. That's true. Thank you, Mike. That's very true. There are these guys. Somebody was asking what they are. I get the dark chocolate. They've got regular chocolate, but they're peanut butter cups. And they're at all the Trader Joe's. They're delicious. Absolutely delicious. But they're very rich. But what's nice about them is they're so rich that you kind of don't want more. Like, I don't want more than one. And I am a chocolate addict. Like, desserts and things, I could eat, in principle, a whole container of those. You eat one, and I'm satiated. I can never pronounce the word. It's satiated. Or sated, where I don't want to eat anymore. It's really wild. Yeah, because they're so rich, but you end up not eating too much because they're rich. Anyway, wouldn't last you 2 minutes. I'm telling you, they're very rich. You probably could hold off on them. Like, you wouldn't want to eat more. Trust me, I am somebody who could eat half a tray of brownies. Easy. Half a cheesecake. I mean, these things, the richness of them is different. For some reason, for my stomach at least, they make me hold off, which is good. Anyway, Dennis, complicated. Dennis is saying, why didn't NATO and Obama stop Russia in 2014? The Obama thing, I think, huge mistake the way he responded. But part of the problem, I remember when I had Yulia, I think Yulia was on the show with us. Either I was on her show or she was on our show, who's a Ukrainian online personality now working with the Kyiv, what is it? Oh, I'm forgetting. One of the Kyiv English papers. It's not the Independent. It's the other one, I think, she's with. But the Post, I think it's the Kyiv Post. Thanks, Ash. What Yulia was saying was Ukraine was in no position to fight back in 2014. That the Ukrainian military built up significantly from 2014 to today because of Western help, Western training, Western equipment, so that basically Ukraine is in a much better position today to fight the Russians than they were in 2014. Having said that, NATO still could have put the sanctions of, like they did now on the Russians, and we didn't. I don't know why. I really don't. I don't know why. I don't know why. But like, this is one of those things where it's just sort of, to some degree, I'm looking at the sunset. It's hard to say because different eras are different. Was it Biden? Was it the European governments in power? Boris Johnson in the UK? I don't know. Like, who was it that made? By the way, Zelensky. You didn't have Zelensky as president back then either, right? Right? It wasn't Zelensky. those factors all came together in a way that put Ukraine on the map, that made the world, I mean, Zelensky certainly made the world galvanize in support of Ukraine, right? Biden served a significant role in galvanizing the world's support as well. Obama wasn't the right man for the job. Biden was, in the sense of galvanizing the world. Biden isn't the right man in terms of, I think he's afraid of Putin, so Biden only goes so far. He doesn't go far enough. But so all of those, and maybe the world leaders who were in Europe at the time, for whatever reason, weren't as, again, I think of Boris Johnson in the UK, who's like really, boom, or who was at least, super good on Ukraine, right? Had his own problems. But Obama, and frankly, Obama did the same thing in Syria, right? The red line, right? Wasn't the red line chemical weapons? And then Assad used it against his own people horrifically. And what did the U.S. do? I mean, so Obama had his own problems with being sort of afraid of going too far, Anyway, very bad, very bad. Dependent on Russian energy, sure, but was that any different today? Police is saying the same thing. Cheap Ruski gas. Oh, Chatsi Kiriakou. Yeah, nice name. Hey, Frank, thank you for that. But I wonder, was Europe in any different position in terms of their dependence on Russian energy in 2014 versus 2022? I'm going to doubt that Europe was any less dependent in 2022, right? I doubt it. I mean, I don't know. But which no are you saying? Which way does no go? Meaning it wasn't any easier for Europe in 2022, thank you, Elizabeth, than it was in 2015 or 2014 to take on the Russians, basically. Obama has said he deeply regrets it. That's interesting. Okay. Well, that's nice. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Elizabeth. Multiple gifts from Elizabeth. I have no idea, Sally. Not sure. Sally was asking about Syrian chemical weapons. I have no idea. Oh, what else, guys? What else? Yeah. Doing more, I think she means, Ben, in terms of deeply regrets not doing more to help Ukraine when Russia invaded the first time. I hear you. Dog wants more water. All right, we'll do a quick water break since it's 7:15. Won't go too much longer tonight. The last couple of nights have been going very late. All right, dog. A little more water. All right. There you go. All right. Ooh. There we go. Up. Anyway, what else we got going, guys? Your dog sticking to the lens. Anyway, all right, mods up. You know what to do, TikTok mods. You know what to do. Oh, Courtney, we're already there. She's drunk too much water her entire life, and it's gone up a little bit, but she's got some beginnings of kidney disease, which I suspect is the issue. But her whole life she's drunk too much water. It's just more now, which I suspect is the kidneys getting worse, unfortunately, but we'll find out with the blood test this summer. Thank you, Frumple. But, she's on the special food. We're doing what we can. Baleen, that is Baleen behind my TV, Crystals. Yes, because I worked a long time ago for Ted Stevens, senator from Alaska. So, I don't know what that means, Google person. I think NATO will keep pushing until Russia uses a tactical nuke in Ukraine. I don't know what that means. If you mean we should be afraid of Putin, no, not really. If Putin were to use nuclear weapons, it would be over for him. Then he would get the war he'd be afraid of, because I think NATO would go to war if he used nukes. That would be it. But NATO wouldn't have a choice but to go to war, really, if he used nukes, because you can't send the message that in 2024 it is okay to use nuclear weapons in any context unless it's literally the survival of your country. And in Ukraine, it's not the survival of Russia at all. It's an independent country that Russia just wants to take over. If they use nuclear weapons, I think it's over for them. I think it's over for them if that happens, because then they'll immediately be at war with Poland. I think the Baltic states, probably Brits, the U.S. will, Biden wouldn't, Trump, who knows, right? Biden might not have a choice, but no. And by the way, there's no advantage to Putin using nukes. All the military experts will tell you that there's just there's no military advantage to it. So anyway. Yes, I did, Darren. Darren's saying, do you see the video of the Russians storing military equipment in the nuclear plant? Yes, there was video out a couple days ago of the Russians having a bunch of military vehicles with the Z's on them inside the Zaporizhia nuclear plant. Remember, the Zaporizhia nuclear plant, more or less, I believe, is more or less at the top of this little south of the river, right here. The Russians occupy it. It's in Ukraine, of course. And it's a nuclear plant that they've been occupying forever. Well, for a couple of years now. But they're storing military equipment inside, which, of course, is, illegal and a huge violation and risky, because if you store military equipment inside a nuclear plant, then you're basically putting that plant at risk, because you're at least, adjusting this a little bit. There we go. Adjusting my light a little bit as we do this. You're putting it at risk because you are basically telling the enemy, if you want to stop us, you've got to blow up the nuclear plant. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. You're using the nuclear plant as a human shield, as a nuclear shield, a nuclear plant shield, right? Oh, hey, Bogisho. Good to see you. Bogisho's writing us. He's in Ukraine. Good to see you. Привit. Hey, Bjorn. It's Chris. Oh, the map. Okay, that's what you guys were doing. I was wondering what you were doing. All right, what else we got going? Oh, the dam. The dams, forget it. Jake is asking, have they done anything to repair the dam? They were talking about, I remember the Russians, everyone believes the Russians were responsible for blowing up a dam more or less around here on the river that, remember, caused massive flooding everywhere. This was, now maybe a year and a half ago. I remember at the time hearing that the dam couldn't be repaired. It would have to be rebuilt. And my suspicion is because Ukraine controls the north side of the river, the Russians control the south side of the river. How the hell? Yeah, Novakhovka Dam. Exactly, Dutch. How do you rebuild it, right? If you only control one bank and the bad guys control the other bank. You can't even finish, and it would have to be a new dam. They couldn't repair the old one. So I have no idea. I haven't heard anything, but I'm not convinced anything's going to happen with the dam until after the war. And even then, it's a mess if the Russians are still controlling the land south. I've not seen that non-aligned. I haven't seen that from Macron, no. Starlink, we don't know, Luis. Luis is asking if the Russians are still using Starlink. So Starlink is Elon Musk's satellite internet service that the Ukrainians claimed a few weeks ago that the Russians had access to it, sort of in violation of Starlink's rules. We don't know. We just don't know. There's been no updates. I mean, there were also then follow-on reports that Russians inside Russia were actually selling like bootleg Starlink accounts that they were able to get. So it sure looks like it's true that the Russians had access to Starlink. We don't know anything about what Musk and company have done to shut them off, if at all. I don't know, but we've heard nothing about it. Nothing about it. What else, guys? We can go a few more minutes, not too. Maybe by 7:30 I'll cut this off because we've been going an hour and 20 minutes, so I don't want to go too long. F-16s, the F-16s are supposed to come this summer, they're saying. So, we don't know when. It's not summer yet, right? We're still in March. So summer, if we're saying they don't come until summer, that would typically mean not until June, probably, at the earliest. Last year they were saying August, right? So who knows? And also, who knows how many? Hey, Crystal, thank you. Who knows how many they're going to be getting and how, like, are they getting a handful of F-16s in August and then the bulk of them not until December or January? I mean, who knows? But again, by then, whatever. We've waited so long on this. We've made the war 10 times harder, unfortunately. They may have enough trained pilots by then. I mean, they've been training them now since last September, maybe. They've been training pilots. And I think the pilot training might have been 5 months or something. It depended on the language skills of the pilots, because my suspicion is the books they need to read or whatever are probably in English, and the training, training simulators and those kind of things are probably in English too, right? Where you're talking to control and everything else, air traffic control. So they had to learn English, or at least learn sufficient military English, technical English, Flying in Nevada. I forgot where they are, Richard. I had read, I don't remember Nevada, although they could be there. Oh, actually flying, you mean? Oh, that's an interesting question. Actually. You're right. The trainings were going on, Sasha, stop. The trainings were going on somewhere else. I forget where. But you're right. Eventually, you'd get to the point where, Sasha, no, come here. Yeah, I mean, she needs more. Again, she is drinking a little too much lately, but she also has become a very come here. She's become super demanding in her old age, and it drives me up the wall. Because I'm willing to give her water, but not 3 times in an hour. This is ridiculous. And I could give her a bigger bowl, but she'll literally drink the whole thing, and then I don't need her having then having to go out every half hour. That'd be a lot of fun. Anyway. Tucson. Oh, interesting, Kevin. Is that true? Okay. But that is interesting. I didn't think of that as far as where, because the Ukrainians also need practice flying the jets too, not just simulators, and where they were getting the practice actually flying them. We haven't heard anything about that. Boil water, let it cool, then provide it. What does that do, Marie? She wants my attention, yes, but she also, she does have a drinking problem. She's got a water problem. She really does. Yeah, her blood is always, her blood work has always been fine up until the last blood test where she's having the beginning of kidney issues with the last blood test. Otherwise, everything was normal until now. So they're training. Oh, Stig says they're training in Denmark. Now, I know you guys are doing training. I do know that. Are they actually going to be doing flight training, meaning flying actual F-16s? She's a little over 14 now. A little over F-16. A little over F-16. Are they actually flying the F-16s? Anyway. What else, guys? Beep, 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 beep. Like I said, we're getting to the end of the show. I'm gonna cut it off shortly, because that way I'm gonna go have some of my pizza that I had finished. They had a F-16 repainted in Ukraine colors 2 months ago. That's interesting. That's nothing. Yeah, her next vest appointment is typically I was going to take her in August, because that's when she's due for her shots and stuff. So, all the water in America is fluorinated, we say. Yeah. The French Mirage, I don't know that the French, correct me if I'm wrong, but did the French ever come through and actually offer the Mirage fighter jets? We talked about it, right? I mean, we've been discussing it, but I don't know that an offer was ever made of them. I don't think so. Cherry blossoms were going tomorrow, actually. It was too cold today. Luis says no. Yeah, I don't think so. The cherry blossoms, it was like 38 degrees this morning when we were going to go, with a wind chill of 34, and I said forget it. Even though it's not sunny tomorrow is going to be like at least it'll be maybe 48 instead of 38. So I was like, okay, we're doing that. So we're going tomorrow. Yep. Beep, 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 beep. The beef I had with Obama. Well, that was over gay marriage. A lot of things actually, because Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which was the gays in the military, gay marriage, overturning. I'm already forgetting. Oh my God, I'm already forgetting what it was, because Obama was in the courts defending Bowers v. Hardwick, which is a big Supreme Court case. So a lot of different issues. I had sort of taken him on publicly with my blog, and really pissed him off. Again, I'll have to get the passage from my friend's book and read it to you. But basically, the deputy on my blog went to the White House for the Christmas party, and he gets introduced. And they say, this is so-and-so who's, with America blog, which was my blog. And he had interviewed Obama. Actually, he had interviewed Obama 6 weeks before. And it was interesting because Obama basically sat down with like 5 or 6 bloggers of the top American political blogs to interview. all the heads of the blogs got invited except me. In my case, he invited my deputy because they were pissed at me because I was so critical of Obama on a lot of the gay rights stuff, because he was being bad on the gay rights promises he made. And they were pissed at me, so they invited my deputy and not me. My deputy goes and does a very good job of spelling out to Obama, you're my generation, why are you so bad on gay marriage, and Obama says sort of famously to in the interview to my deputy, I'm evolving on the issue of gay marriage. Well, that became big news in America. Obama's evolving on gay marriage, right? 6 weeks later or so, Joe goes to the White House, and again, friend invites him to the White House Christmas party, and you wait in line and I'll have to read, like I said, I have to read the passage because it's more fun when you read the passage, but waits in line to see the president for pictures. And I mean, there's 300 couples or more that are in line to see the president. It's horrific how many people are there. And so they don't, they say hi for 5 seconds, take the picture, and they're gone. He gets up there, and the big thing you're trying to, and I've gone 2 or 3 times to the White House Christmas party now. And the hard thing is trying to figure, I think 3 times maybe even, is what you say to the president and the first lady, because you only get 3 seconds, but you want to say something. And Joe says, I figured I'm going to say, good to see you. Nice to see you again, Mr. President, because maybe he'll remember I interviewed him. Well, walks up to Obama, and again, big, long receiving line, walks up, Mr. President, Joe Sudbury with America blog. Nice to see you again, Mr. President. And Obama grabs his hand and goes, I did everything you people want. You wanted gays in the military. You wanted this. You wanted that. I gave you everything, and you're not happy. You keep criticizing me. And he's going like this to Joe. This is the Christmas party. This is the receiving line. You get 2.5 seconds with the president, and that's it, because there's 600 people in line with you, right? It goes on for hours. Obama was yelling at Joe, yelling in front of everybody. And finally, he turns to our friend Carrie, Carrie Eleveld, who's a famous gay journalist who had invited Joe, and turns and says, you know what I mean? And she goes, she covered the White House every day. She goes, I, in my life, had never seen Obama do this to anybody. She said, I was so blown away. And she goes, I don't know why I said this. I literally turned to him and said, well, I guess some people are never happy, huh, Mr. President? And in retrospect, she goes, I don't know why I said it, because Carrie herself is a gay rights activist, I would say. She absolutely thinks Obama should have been criticized, but she literally goes, some people are never happy, because she goes, I was so freaked out. So they take the picture. They're done. And the picture's done, and the Marine comes and walks you away because they've got 600 people in line. They've got to get, it takes hours to do this, right? You literally get 3 seconds, boom, 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 3 pictures, and you're gone. And literally, the whole thing's over, and you're like, oh my God. Well, they go to walk away, and Obama grabs Joe's arm and goes in for round 2 and starts yelling at him again. I mean, it was insane. Joe called me at 7:30 at night, and I remember I knew he was at the White House Christmas party, and I said, why are you calling me? Didn't you make it to the Christmas party? He goes, oh my God, you're not going to believe what happened. The president just yelled at me. And I was like, what are you talking about? Carrie gets on the phone and goes, it's true. I saw the whole thing. Oh my God. So yes, that was the time that, now Joe was the one there, but that was the time that my blog pissed off Barack Obama. So this was, Carrie wrote it up in her book. There's a whole 2 pages in Carrie's book. She wrote a big book about Washington, and she did 2 pages on the whole thing that happened. So yeah, very funny. It was a wonderful story. And the thing is, this is my political background, which has made life very fun for me in Washington, the work that I've done in politics. But it also gets you kind of spoiled in a way, because you, I'm used to influencing I pissed off Bill Gates once. I beat Bill Gates once in sort of another gay rights battle. But it's when you've had a lot of experiences like that, this Ukraine stuff can almost be very frustrating, because I'm used to taking on big people and winning, and it's hard to take on an issue that's big and not win. It can be very frustrating. Not that I think I can beat Russia, right? But it's, when you work in Washington, sometimes if you're lucky, you get to take on the president of the United States, which is kind of fun. Anyway, oh, there's no video. No, no, no. You're not allowed to do video. So they wouldn't be allowed to record anything. No, no, no. But again, thank God Carrie, who's a journalist, witnessed it and wrote it up. I have the book. I found the book the other day. I've got it. I'm going to have to go and actually take pictures of the pages in the book so that it's on my computer so I never lose it. I mean, her book is, we just have to find the book again. Obviously, it's a public book. But anyway, possibility of World War III. Luis, a lot of the first half of the show was talking about that. I think there is a real possibility of war with Russia in the future. Having said that, it may not be any different than the threat of war we had with the Soviet Union all those years. And we had a lot of risk of Soviet Union, right, of war with the Soviets. I don't know that this is any greater than that, which is good, right? But having said that, with the Soviets, we had some tense times, so it's not like it's a good thing either. Right? The whole thing with the Soviets. I'm going to see if I can find Carrie's book. That was it. The name of her book is Don't Tell Me to Wait. Don't Tell Me to Wait. Thank you, Pizditz. I don't think, I'm going to look here really quick. I don't think I've got the... Oh, she's got the story here. Oh my God, they've got the. Hold on. They published the expert. They published the excerpts. Hold on. Oh my God, I actually found the experts. Hold on a second. I'm looking here really quick. Hang on. Hold on. Oh, I found it. It's in the Advocate. The entire story. My lighting is, I don't think my lighting is dim, hippie. I don't know. For TikTokers, the lighting looks very bright for me. Are you seeing the light as dim on TikTok? I don't think so. Are you guys seeing the lighting as dim or not? I don't think so. Not from what I'm seeing on TikTok. Yeah. Now, I did find it. You guys can Google her. Her name is Carrie Eleveld, Kerry. Her last name is E-L-E, V as in Victor, E-L-D. So Eleveld, all E's. E-L-E, V as in Victor, E-L-D. So Eleveld, E-L-E, V as in Victor, E-L-D. And The Advocate. And you will find this. So I found the story. I'm not going to read the entire story. Okay? She says, when Joe and I reached the diplomatic reception room, our attendant Marine announced us to the President and the First Lady. This is Carrie Eleveld and her guest, Joe Sudbay. I had been told to greet the President first as Joe spoke to Mrs. Obama. So he's speaking to Mrs. Obama. She's speaking to the President. And then we switched, posed for the picture, and went on our merry way, surrendering our spaces to the next guests. Hello, Mr. President. Happy holidays, I said, shaking the President's hand and matching his wide-toothy grin. I'd still like to do that sit-down with you, she says. We need to do that, he says, blah, blah, blah. Merry Christmas. I'm looking here. But as I pivoted to tuck myself between President Obama to my left and Joe to my right, because then you get between them for the photos, right? As I pivoted to tuck myself between President Obama to my left and Joe to my right for our photo, I realized something had gone terribly awry. The president was glaring at Sudbay, wagging his index finger as he forcefully enumerated all the work he had put into passing the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, an effort that was currently stalled in the lame duck session and looked almost certain to perish. I've done everything I said I would do, the president was saying, referring to his last encounter with Joe in October, and I still need the 16th vote. I got a 1,000-page report, and I got the Secretary of Defense, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and he's listing all the things he's done. Carrie goes, it was more than a little uncomfortable. Joe was frozen, and I suddenly found myself in the odd position of searching for something to say that could smooth the ruffled feathers of a man who I had spent the year admonishing and occasionally disparaging in the series of weekly columns I wrote, meaning Obama, because she was constantly criticizing Obama and the gay rights thing. She goes, it's never enough, is it, Mr. President? I said Looking at him, the sound of my voice interrupted the president's cadence. He glanced at me momentarily, seemingly a little annoyed by the reminder that other people were in the room. "No, it's not," he said. Then he turned his back to Joe, took one more breath as if to reload for another round, and proclaimed, "We have to take this picture." Obama turned on a dime and flashed a big cheesy grin. Poof, it was over. There's more here, but that's yeah, it was hilarious. She wrote several pages about it, but yeah, absolutely amazing. I should do it. You're right, though. I ought to do a TikTok and a YouTube just of that moment. Yeah. But I love it. I mean, like I said, Obama was very good on gay rights, but Obama fell back. He was afraid to push stuff. And what was happening basically is we knew the Congress was going to switch over and become Republican. I think it was the House or the Senate. I don't remember what at the time, but we knew we were going to lose one of the houses of Congress. And when that happened, that meant there was no more gay rights legislation getting passed. So we knew we had to get it done. And Obama's people kept dragging their feet saying, "Oh, we'll do it next year." And we were like, there is no next year. So that's why he got pissed off. I have never, I've always wanted to write a book, but I've never sort of done the writing a book thing. But maybe. It was fun. I mean, it was, like I said, it's fun. I mean, working in Washington can be fun if you have influence, or you can have influence. But yeah, an audio book of it. It was just, Joe was on the phone, was freaking out. It was the funniest damn thing. But what they had told me was he went after him once, and then as he was walking away, grabbed his arm. I think Carrie may have forgotten that part when she wrote the book a year later, or two years later, that he grabbed his arm and pulled him back a second time as they were trying to leave. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Anyway, all right, guys, let me do the news summary. We didn't do the recap yesterday. I'll do the recap today, and then we will call it quits. All right? Quick recap. It is day 755 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation. The British Ministry of Defense says the frontline situation in areas like Donetsk in the east are unstable due to Ukrainian ammunition and personnel shortages. A defensive fortification effort is underway in Ukraine's Kharkiv region. Workers have been digging out deep trenches fortified with wood planks and cement throughout the day to basically stop a Russian advance, which could happen, they're worried about. Oops. Hang on a second here. Institute for the Study of War is warning that, let me see here. That Russia is preparing for war with NATO in as little as 3 to 5 years from now. And we did a long talk about that. The French army chief said that we've got to consider the possibility of NATO troops of being moved into Ukraine, and seemed to hint that he was talking about if the Russians go after Odessa or go after Kyiv, meaning a significant chance of them taking it. Estonian Prime Minister Kallas said that basically that if Russia were to lose this war, basically saying that if Ukraine were to lose the war, this could lead to World War III. Polish President Duda yesterday said that Russia was switching to a war economy with the intention of being able to attack NATO as early as 2026 or 2027. I then mentioned that Shoigu, the Russian defense minister, is talking now about seriously beefing up the Russian armed forces, new divisions and brigades. There was a press conference of the Russian militia. These are these Russians that are basically fighting on behalf of Ukraine against the Russian troops. They held a press conference in Kyiv today saying they're going to continue their fighting. And finally talked about why Belgorod was important, which is the region they keep attacking in, these Russian troops. And one of the main reasons is the region holds about 40% of Russia's iron ore. And some of you said that Belgorod also has oil, which is interesting, but I didn't realize the iron ore. That's huge. It's absolutely huge. Anyway, so there you go. All right, guys, I'm going to call it quits. Thank you for the gifts, adventures. I need to go eat because I'm starving. Again, I had sushi before before our show, and it's like, it's funny that stuff just doesn't, like, it fills you up at the time, but it goes right through and you're like, food. So I am now just starving. Excuse me. Thank you, Blue Ariel. Thank you, Crystal. And thank you all for all the gifts tonight. YouTube for all the subscribers and all the subscription gifts. I'm not going to be able to, I'll just thank some of you that are here right now. Mike, Thorben, David, Bjorn, Sally, who else we got here? Paula, only a paw. Sorry, looking, I can only go back so far. It doesn't let me go. Chris doesn't let me go back too far. All right, I'm not seeing Pablo, Anna, Marjorie. Oh, these are the ones you guys just got. Because Jake, oh, right. And then Jake for all the gifts Jake gave. Soren for his gift. And I'll thank a couple of you guys on TikTok as well. Martin subscribing. Some of the other subscribers tonight. Courtney. Bryce. Puppy. Martin. Again, maybe the same Martin. If it is, that's really nice of you, Martin. Darren. Zerpachi. Tom, Ava. I won't be able to go through everybody here, but I'll at least go back a little bit here. Okay, I think I'm seeing a lot of repeats. Tom, yeah, we're seeing the same. Okay, now I'm seeing repeats. Okay. Anyway, thank you all for supporting me. I appreciate the help. Thank you, exactly, Jake and others for the gifts for everybody's gift subscriptions. That was wonderful. Oh, so Saturday is our weekend show. So Saturday morning, I will be live on TikTok, YouTube, and Discord for the monthly subscribers. So please do join us. That'll be great. And again, it's by sort of, it'll be 11 a.m. Eastern time US on all of these. Oh, and then Sunday, I'm finally doing another one of my my shows, my monthly shows that I'd been kind of bad about for the $25 and up subscribers on YouTube and Ko-fi and everywhere else. Now, there may not be many of us. I don't know, but I did promise I would do it, so I'm going to do it. So that's Sunday, I think, at 11 a.m. So don't forget. That's Copies and a few of the rest of you. Don't forget, you can find those over at Discord. Just go look at events, and you'll see them already scheduled. But definitely join us. All right, thank you, Darian. All right, guys, and thank you, user. Thank you, Jorge, for the roses. I'm going to get going so I can eat. Not sure how you ended up with a subscription. Oh, you probably ended up with a subscription, Paula, with one of the free subscriptions, I'm guessing. If you just got it, people are able to buy free subscriptions for a month and give them as a gift. And then YouTube will automatically sort of randomly give them to people. Hey, Jake, thank you so much, Jake. Jake is a new farmer with a tractor. Thank you. I appreciate that, Jake, a new subscriber, in addition to all the gift generosity. Dinner is going to be some leftover pizza, but I'm going to be very happy eating it. So probably leftover pizza. I also had some chili, like a chili mac thing that I may have too because I'm hungry. So I look different. Every day looks different, Mark. Every day the lighting is different. Who knows? Who knows? All right, guys. Thank you, Christopher. I will see you guys tomorrow. And like I said, Saturday morning, if you're a monthly subscriber, join us on TikTok, YouTube, or Discord. We're going to try YouTube. Usually we do Discord. I will try YouTube, but I don't know if my connection, if my computer is enough for it. We'll see. That it doesn't get sort of overrun with the CPU and everything, but hopefully it works. All right, guys? All right. I will see you all tomorrow, 6 o'clock Eastern tomorrow, our last show of the week, and then otherwise Saturday morning. So thank you all. I appreciate all the gifts and the help and you being here, and you all have a very good night, okay? Or if you're in Asia, a good day. Yes, James, I am using my my iPhone as my camera, and it seems to work very well, so I'm doing that now. Because I thought, what the heck? I'll improve the picture a little. All right, guys, have a good night. Have a good night, y'all.